All right, welcome to another episode of The Elephant Effect. It's your boy Stone.
I'm Lady M, and we are glad that you decided to join us for another Tuesday. We are wrapping up our enrichment series, and I hope that you all have enjoyed it. So just sit back. We definitely have a power-packed episode for you today. Good evening and welcome back for your enrichment. This is the final series of enrichment. Tonight we are digging deep into relationships holistically, not just girl boy, but this is definitely your platonic relationships, just making sure that you have the right connections moving forward in life. And so that definitely takes us into topic number one, which is connection over convenience. In a world of quick replies and busy schedules, true connections take intentional time and energy. Again, true connections take time and energy. And so the biggest question that comes out of this particular topic is, are we going closer or are we just coexisting? And just unpacking that, are you putting the energy and the time in to birth and have a flourishing relationship, or are you just coexisting? Are you reaching out or connecting with this person when it's convenient for you, or are you making sure that you're enriching each other's life, you're adding that value? And so definitely, make a list those pros and cons so you can make sure that you have the right people who are pushing you into greatness and not keeping your life stagnant.
And that leads us right into number two. Communication is the bridge, not the destination.
Yes.
All right, so listening to understand, not to respond, and to build emotional safety. And that's vitally important. We got to understand that communication is a two-way street. It doesn't just start with one person and it doesn't just end with the other. And just because you're in a relationship, don't think that communication is going to come easy, because you don't communicate on the same wavelength all the time. So that's why it's vitally important to understand your partner's communication style, the way that they communicate, the language that they communicate in, because these are all things you don't really think about. You just think it comes natural if we're just sitting down and having a conversation that's building. No, it's your partner may communicate on a completely different level than what you do. So what you see as satisfactory conversation may not be satisfactory on the other end. So it's important to establish those guidelines and those boundaries early in your relationship and say, hey, how do you communicate? How do I get through to you? What's your love language? How, what can I say to avoid conflict? What gets you to that point? How can I de-escalate any situation? It's important to understand that. It's important to understand that, because if you have two hot-headed people coming together, you're going to have two messy situations. So you definitely have to understand how to de-escalate any situation, and you have to know your partner's ins and outs when it comes to communicating. It's vitally important. It's not just what you say, but how you say it, and that strengthens trust.
That's good. Oh my God, it's so much we can talk about when it comes to communication, because it's the biggest miscommunication is not communicating. And so I know one thing that I often say is, tell me how you understand. And it seemed to go over people's head, but that's to ensure that you are communicating on the same frequency, which leads us into point three. Quality over quantity. Oh my goodness. I love this one because I echo this at work. I know that, as people, we have gotten so accustomed to, I can just have the quantity and not the quality. I often people say, the grass isn't greener on the other side. And so that go into friendships, relationships as well. It's not about how long you've known someone. It's about how deeply you choose to know them. Be present, not just available. I used to say that availability was the best ability, but no, being present, letting me know that you value this and you rather put in that time and spend that time and try to, uncover what's been covered, and a lot of things just need to be unpacked, and conversing and just making sure that you're putting the time in so that you do realize that you do have quality.
Absolutely, absolutely. Value is vitally important. All right, now leads us right into number 4. Celebrate their wins like they're yours.
Absolutely.
That genuine support builds unshakable bonds. So we're definitely a team in this. We have to understand that we're not just two entities that are just coexisting. We're building a team that can be unbreakable. So that comes with supporting each other through our wins and through our losses. And envy has no space in enriched relationships. It really doesn't. You got to chill out. When one wins, we all win. When we win, the family wins. So it's not picking and choosing. It's not bickering back and forth. No, we're building this thing together, and we're winning together as a whole, because there's no greater feeling than uplifting your partner, because guess what? That comes back tenfold on you, and that makes a happy household. And that's what it's all about when it comes to this teamwork thing. It's all about how can we uplift our partner and escalate them way past their potential so they can see it for themselves. Even if they don't see it, it's our duty and our responsibility to make sure that they see it, make sure that they see that value.
Absolutely. And I know he kind of spoke on just, the general household relationships, but also celebrating friendships. Those relationships matter as well. You want to make sure that you have the right people in your circle. And if those people are not celebrating you, then maybe you have the wrong group of people. Sometimes I know in relationship that envy can kind of creep in. And so it takes us back to all these other steps, just making sure that you have those honest conversations. And if those conversations aren't happening, then there might be some envy because you're doing this and I'm doing that. It may stray me away from you. And so that celebration isn't there. And so I definitely want people around me who are flocking to me to celebrate me, because I'm always ready to give a congratulations, a pat on the back, because I know that if you win, I know that winning is right around the corner for me. Exactly. And so that ties right into our next topic. Hard conversations heal hidden wounds. How many of you know that wounds tend to be hidden because a conversation didn't happen? I can think of plenty times in my personal life where resentment built up because that conversation didn't happen. Yes, that conversation happened in your head, but it never manifested in the natural. And so you kind of have a wound there because there's hurt there. And what you tend to do is whenever you feel free, you pick the scab off it, play in that wound, and then you allow it to heal, only because that conversation didn't happen. And so across the board, you want to make sure that you don't have an art with anyone. If you do, you want to go to them. Have that honest conversation so that you're not carrying the burden, because oftentimes we carry the burden when those conversations aren't had. We'll have them with ourselves. We feel like we know how they're going to turn out, but avoiding conflict doesn't create peace. It buries pain. I'm going to say that again for the people in the back of the room. Avoiding conflict doesn't create peace. It buries pain. Come on, y'all. You cannot avoid conflict. This goes back to all of the other topics. Having those conversations, understanding how I communicate and me understanding how you receive what I'm trying to say so that you can avoid conflict. Making sure that, okay, if I have something to bring up, I'm not going to bring it up in this moment, but tell me when it's a good time for you, because I may say something that stub your toe, but I'm trying to come to you in peace so that it does not bury a pain, and you don't go years in a relationship just coexisting. From topic number one, I'm just not coexisting for the sake of trying to be comfortable. And then healing requires honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. We have to get to a place where it's okay to stub your toe and you understand that I need to heal properly. So here is my truth. Here is my honesty. And you have to allow people and vice versa to come to you in their truth, in their honesty, and you validate them in their feelings. Because if I feel uncomfortable in coming to you, guess what? I go back to burying that pain.
And you'll tuck right back into that shell. And this is where the most growth in any relationship comes, through those hard times and how you work through them.
Yes.
That is vitally important, because like you said, you can crawl up in that shell, and then it's festering inside of you,
Yes.
building that resentment. And then that's how so many people end up hating each other over the time. It's just like, when I tried to come to you, you weren't available. I know in that situation, you might blow up at me, and then I'm going to react a certain way, and I'm going to leave the house, and then nothing gets resolved. So we definitely got to, like I said, we got to come to and communicate. That's communication, comes right back to it. We got to learn how to de-escalate any of those situations early in the relationship. So when it does arise, if it arises, you know how to handle it. All right, that brings us right back to our sixth point: love in their language, not yours. All right, learn how the people in your life receive love, whether it be through words, touch, service, or time. And that's vitally important. We don't all receive love the same way. Love language is vitally different between two different people. So you have to know what that means for your partner. Sometimes it can be the simple things in life, like small gestures. Absolutely. that might speak large volumes to somebody who doesn't really like the bigger things, like the fancy gifts and all of that. You could just do a simple thing of leaving a love note on the refrigerator, and that would just speak volumes in their life. And then you might have people who love the lavish lifestyle, and a simple gesture like that might seem minuscule. So you have to really dig deep in your relationship, find out what that middle ground is. Find out, hey, what are we doing? How do we love? Is it time spent? That's definitely a great one right there. Going out on dates, making that a priority in your life, because we get so busy and bogged in life that we don't take time to really build our relationship and nourish our relationship.
That's true.
And then we end up just really resenting each other in the long run, because you never make time for me. We're always busy. So make sure you're setting that time to do for yourself, because Lord knows we're busy, and we definitely set our time for our vacations, because we know it's important. Dealing with we got a whole household full of kids, and they're ripping and running at all times. As soon as they get up, they're busy. So we definitely have to set that time to just unwind and refine ourselves. That's really important. All right. And speaking their language creates deep connections. That's where that bond comes in.
Absolutely. And again, this one is across the board. I know he talked about our home in general, but I can also think of times where my love language might have shifted in a situation. I can always say that, my love language is time, but it's also times where I need a word. And then there's also times where, I need that act of service. And then just depending on the day, I need your touch. So also think about that in your friendships and other relationships. How does this person receive love? And sometimes it can just be if your friend is telling you that they're having a bad day, and as the day progresses, you reach back and send a message, you got it, or however that this person communicates, it all ties into each other. And then the seventh enrichment point is mutual growth is the goal. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
This definitely takes me back to number one, where it stated, are we growing or are we coexisting? Great relationships push both people to evolve. Are we evolving? You should never get to a point where you feel like you're outgrowing your mate, or outgrowing your friend group. And I definitely have had some times where I outgrew a friend group. I was progressing and everybody else was kind of having elementary conversation, and I was graduating high school. Not physically, but, in my thought process, I definitely wanted something different. And I knew that, it was time to evolve. And sometimes it can be hard breaking away from what's familiar, but you have to understand that in order to grow, you sometimes have to push yourself out of what is comfortable. We are so accustomed to our our comfort zone, and we think that, oh, okay, this is my comfort zone. I don't want to be stretched. I don't want to do anything different. I'm afraid of the unknown, and I think we all can relate to that, just being afraid of the unknown. But you definitely want to make sure that you have like-minded individuals around you, so that growth is mutual. And then ask yourself, are we helping each other become the best versions of ourselves? And I think that is a key question. And am I, when I come around you, am I being the best version of myself? Am I showing up as the person that I want to present to my children? If my children came into the room right now, would I be happy with the version of myself that I am right now? And I know that we talked about this last week when we talked about family, but this goes into that as well, because our children are watching us, how we evolve in relationships. We're teaching them how to show up in relationships. So are we giving them the best example of relationships? Because they mimic what they see. So when you see your kids starting to migrate to not so growth worthy people, you have to sit back and say, okay, what am I presenting to them? Am I presenting to them people who are not going to add value to them? So, as you go throughout the week, be asking yourself, are we helping each other become the best versions of ourselves? Like, think of yourself evolving, becoming the best person that you possibly can, and then think about that weight, or think about that momentum, because that's either, you have one or the other in your life. You either have dead weight or you have momentum. And momentum, of course, is going to continue to push you to be your best self, because they see the greater, and they're always going to make sure that they're pushing you into greater. And so just continue to show up and make sure that you are enriching lives. Like, this has been a phenomenal series. I definitely have some nuggets just from every week so far. I have taken some things back, and I definitely have some meeting notes for myself, really, my friends, my family, and I'm definitely going to continue to unpack this and make sure that I'm being the best version of myself as well. I have 2 daughters who are looking up to me, and I want to make sure that I present the best relationships possible, because I never want anyone to neglect the gift that they have, and that's because they are women. And I feel like I'm not taking anything from men, but I know that women are a prize, and I want them to make sure that they have the best people in their lives so that they can become the best. And so I always try to present them with the best. And it may not always come out that way, but it goes back to last week, just making sure that you are apologetic and being honest and open with them, because they are people as well. They're blossoming into adulthood, straight out the womb, so to speak. And so you just got to make sure that everything is headed in the right direction. But I definitely have loved this series, and I just hope that, as you all are listening, you're taking it in, you are allowing yourself to be a sponge, and you're soaking this all up, because the one initiative for this year is to thrive in 25, and the only way to do it is to drop the dead weight. You cannot take old things into new territory. And I said over the weekend, I have been chanting in my spirit that this is a new start for me. And that new start is going to definitely include new people. And so I had to get away every morning. I remind myself that it's okay to move forward. And so I'm just excited about my next. I hope that you are excited about your next. And what you got to add to that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you said, this series has been eye-opening for me as well, because like you said, it goes back to just digging deep within yourself. This wasn't just for you guys. It was for me as well. It was for us, because we learned a lot along the way, whether when it came from enriching lives, enriching your family, and now enriching your relationships. One thing that it all ties back into each other, and it all related so well. And it just comes right back to, what am I doing to be my best self for everybody that's around me? That's the best way to approach this aspect and this topic. What am I doing to strengthen myself to be that person for my family?
Absolutely.
If you're not thinking about that daily in your head, and that's not the center of your focus, then you're being selfish in a way.
Absolutely.
Just to be blunt with it, you know, because that's what life is about. It's all about thriving and building upon what we're already
Absolutely.
doing and making ourselves
Regeneration.
Exactly. Digging a lot deeper than what we already are, and being that social butterfly for our family, and just continuing to grow with our family, with our friends, and with our loved ones, and those that we are enriching. So I hope that you guys really enjoyed this series like we have. And yeah, we got plenty more to come, you know, from empowering. I mean, I'm not gonna spill everything that we're doing right now, you know, but we got some great series coming for you guys. So stick with us week to week. We're gonna be here every Tuesday. If you have some questions for us, please drop them in the comments, subscribe, like. We need that fan interaction because we want to add another series to this where we answer your questions once a week. And that will be another video for us to create for you guys, just to, you know, spread that wealth and spread that knowledge even more.
So yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to stop you. I know that you were in your flow, but I'm definitely excited about where we're going. And you know, as you all are evolving and growing, we are too. We're in this together, and we just want to make sure that we put out the best version of the next generation. And so it's gonna, not saying that once we get on other topics, we want, you know, revert back to enrichment, but it all ties in together. And so we're just making sure that we continue the each one reach one. I know that's something that we all probably grew up on, but it's something that is ever present right now. And so we definitely want to get back to those fundamentals that our forefathers lived on, so that we can continue to pass down great things and not just those curses we talked about last week.
Absolutely. All right, so like I said, stay locked in. We'll see you guys next week. Love you.
Peace.